Hello everyone, I trust you're doing well, because as of recent, I haven't been. I'm sorry this video took so long, but along with not knowing how to put my thoughts together after playing this game, I also had some stuff come up in real life that got in the way, such as rehearsals for a play and things like that. And then we had the heatwave in the UK, which just made me sound like I was dying of thirst when I first recorded this. And the audio just sounded so bad. Again, I sounded like I was drying up, so I just wasn't happy with that initial take, and I wanted to redo this. I'm sorry this took so long. Better late than never, I suppose. But anyway, on to the main event. Regardless of what you thought about the Wrath of Cortex, it did sell very well on PS2, to the point where it made up for the underperformances of the GameCube and Xbox versions. So, Universal gave Traveller's Tales the green light to make another Crash game. But instead of using their main studio in Knutsford, they opened a new one in Oxford, specifically for this game. Although only a handful of their veteran employees moved there, and so the majority of the team was made up of new, inexperienced developers who had never made a game of this scale before. Luckily, they did get 2.5 years of development time, which is more than the minimum needed to ensure a quality game back then. So what could go wrong? Quite a bit, sadly. They started off going back to their original idea from Wrath of Cortex being more open area based than linear level based. They made a demo called Crash Bandicoot Evolution, and it was initially going to be about the evil twins and their army ants, get it? Taking terrains from other worlds, including Insanity Island, and making a patchwork planet with them. However, when Ratchet & Clank came out, they noticed that they had already done that story idea, and this is where the game started to go downhill in terms of development. To avoid similarities to Ratchet & Clank, they essentially had to start over again and use only a few assets from this project. But a lot of work had already been done by the time this decision was made, so they only had 1 year left to completely change the game, as Universal were not willing to push the release date back, a fate similar to Sonic 06. As a result, the writing became more focused on slapstick comedy and subtle adult humour, and this shift in tone resulted in various arguments over what the game should and shouldn't be. Some former employees even giving examples of how meetings would just be constant arguments about what to get rid of, what to keep, what to change, and this combined with having to train all these newcomers meant that a lot of stuff ended up being left out, and the game is quite buggy as a result. It's even more obvious when you go online and you see all the cut content, the unused cutscenes, characters such as Good Cortex and Evil Coco, scrapped bosses and enemies, and especially lost levels such as Rehab Lab, Security Insanity, a train level, and most noteworthy, Gone a Bit Coco, which would have been inside Coco's mindscape. But I'm not here to see what the game could have been, I'm here to see what we actually did get. And that's the part that scares me. I remember seeing adverts for this game all the time as a kid and wanted to play it, but now that I have, I don't think it quite lived up to what I thought it was going to be, which is especially worrying because loads of Crash fans hold this game in high regard, mostly for its humour, the Cortex Crash team-up dynamic, its presentation, so I was kind of nervous how my opinion was going to go down. But if I want this to be an honest retrospective of Crash Bandicoot for the 30th year anniversary, I'm gonna have to just be honest with how I feel. The reason this video took so long is because I just didn't know how to put my thoughts into words. So I've decided that, like Wrath of Cortex, I'm just going to go through one section of the game at a time, so I'll introduce game mechanics and bosses as they come. Once again, before we start, I must make it clear I've recorded all my own gameplay footage using the PlayStation 2 emulator PCSX2 while using OBS Studio to record. Okay, let's start off with Insanity Island, Act 1, and straight away, Twinsanity follows the latest trend around the time of being more open world. Well, kind of. See, what I mean is you're plopped into Sanity Island, and while you do have a linear path to follow, you can instead explore around the beach first to find some gems. There are 6 in every area, and you get them by doing some tricky platforming, or by completing a task such as guiding these bombs into totem statues. You have a much more basic moveset this time around. You can still double jump, spin, crawl, belly flop and slide, but you can't high jump this time, and you also can't spin out of a slide for combat. Instead, what you have is a long jump. But I'm gonna be honest, this was super clunky. I had to mash the jump button after sliding just to make sure Crash would actually jump out of it. Same thing with the belly flop, it just felt like this thing didn't want to activate half the time. Because I couldn't use the long jump off ledges like I could with the high jump, I ended up just forgetting it existed and I never really used it. You also have no Fruit Bazooka, no Death Tornado Spin, or any of the previous power-ups from the last games, but what you do have is the ability to roll certain objects after walking against them. Though it's rather magnetic in how you steer it, sometimes it feels like you can't really get it off, and other times it feels like it's fighting you, like it doesn't want you to push it, but you can spin or slide into anything you're rolling to launch it, though this is inconsistent too in regards of the aiming, but you'll see what I mean as we go on. There are also 2 of each gameplay styles in this game. You have 2 stealth sections, 2 Humiliscate sections, 2 chases, or 3 if you include one of the new characters, and 2 sections where you have to escort Cortex, but we'll go over these sections as we get to them like I said earlier, because there aren't really levels in this game. It's more so you have some sections cobbled together. Because one thing I got flustered with is the game's pacing. There's no warp room, so I didn't know where the nearest save crate was, which are these new crates with these blue wormholes on them, or even the closest checkpoint crate for that matter. You can save whenever you want in the pause menu, but it doesn't guarantee that if you leave the game and come back to it later, you're going to start in the same spot you manually saved at. Although I will say straight away, the platforming is good. I really like the platforming in this game. With the exception of the long jump not being anywhere near as good as the high jump from previous games, I still felt like I had very good control over Crash from start to finish. He really did feel fun to play this time. Now let's go over all 4 acts in total and each of their sections, all of which you can look at in the pause menu to see how many gems you got for each of those sections, with the first row being the hub world, let's say. It's not really a hub world like I said, it's kind of open area, but not really. Let's just go through the game and you'll see what I mean. Let's start with Sanity Island's Jungle Bungle. While pursuing Coco, you can rotate these cannons and belly flop the buttons to launch bombs. You'll want to do this because you have to lower some of the Tiki statues to get some of the gems. Apart from the belly flop feeling like it didn't want to work half the time, I didn't mind these. But I can't help but think, why not just have all these gems be platforming challenges? Like this one at the beginning. I accidentally soft-locked myself where I didn't know when the bomb was going to blow up, and I thought, it's alright, I'll come back later. And I continued to follow Coco along the tutorial path. It wasn't until I died at this point that I noticed the crates and bombs resetted, and thought, oh, I can go back and get it. And the door was closed. Yep, it's one of those games, the point of no return. A phrase used to describe a game where you have to get everything on your first go because you can't go back and get it, or you have to unlock a way to do so, which is very long-winded. Oh, and remember what Aku says here?
Call me thrice, and I shall grant you special powers.
Yeah, remember that, because he's kind of lying to you. Anyway, I did manage to get the rest of the gems along the tutorial path. It was alright. It was just a bit annoying knowing that I didn't have the high jump, and again, I just thought that the long jump was flat out useless. But once we finished following Coco, we find out that, oh my god, it was Cortex all along, and he's lured you into a trap to tease you with all these villains. And this is the only time most of them appear, so that was a waste of development time. But anyway, the first boss fight. Cortex and Engine piloting
Mecha Bandicoot!
Yeah, you just avoid the targets and spin the power shot back. Honestly, the hardest bit was just this little section near the end, but it's pretty easy once you realise you can just move back and forth. Mecha Bandicoot is somehow easier. You go to one side, run to the other, and spin the shots that come back at you. It's really that simple, honestly. Now that we've dealt the killing blow, we can move on to Cavern Catastrophe, where we've got another gameplay style. Tumbling through these caverns, you have to avoid nitro crates and make sure you don't go too fast or you'll just go flying off. There are also red, yellow and green crystals you have to hit in that order to activate doors and platforms. I'm kinda glad that I was able to die on this section because I ended up missing the green gem and I was able to go back and get it, but the physics here feel weird in terms of the acceleration. There are some alternate paths, but because you can't jump, you have to be mindful of the physics as you bounce over these metal crates to get the gem. And then at the end of this section, I didn't know there was a purple gem here, so I ended up missing it, and there was a checkpoint crate right below me. But I decided not to let it get to me. I just focused on this swarm of army ants, and after sealing the doors on the drill, we see where the game gets its title from. At different points of the game, you have to spin near Cortex to grab the crystal he's holding, and he'll follow you, to which you can either spin around for a wider arc, press the slide button to slam him against the ground like a hammer, and while your jump is rather pitiful like this, you can press the slide button while doing this jump to lob Cortex through the air. Once he lands, he will either teleport back to you, defeat all the enemies, activate a switch, or grab a gem, and then teleport back to you. We mess around for a while until we do this escape sequence with the lift, and then when you get to the top, you'll see that there's a tunnel. These are basically hiding load screens, but they are useful for getting extra lives, but like the past games, if you die and do this bit again, the extra lives are gone, they'll just be Wumpa crates. We now arrive at Totem Hokum, where we meet our villains, the evil twins. But I'll explain who they are when I do the story video at the end of this retrospective, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. After they use their powers to scare Cortex off, we explore the beach for a few more gems and lives. And then when we catch up to Cortex, we now have the first of two escort sections. Cortex, after being stunned by some bees, is going to run along the path, and you have to activate all these things before he gets killed. It was alright, it was a platforming challenge, and I liked the platforming, so I didn't think this was too bad. And then, once you finish with that, the tribesmen, led by Papu Papu, will take Cortex prisoner, and you'll have to do a stealth section, and you're probably seeing what I mean. The pacing doesn't really feel good in this game. The game just doesn't take a break. Think about it. After we beat Mecha Bandicoot, we had the tumbling section, we had our first Twinsanity moment with Cortex teaming up with him, along with a drill chase at the end, then the escort mission, and now we're doing the stealth section. The fact that you don't really have many save and checkpoint crates really makes it feel like you have to keep going until you find at least one of them, and again, manual saving doesn't guarantee that you'll start where you saved if you turn the game off and come back later. So it really wasn't that reliable, and it made me feel like I was under more pressure than I probably was. It also didn't help that when I died at certain points, if there was a checkpoint beforehand, I had to watch the cutscene again. This is because during development there was a programming error where if you skipped a cutscene, the game would crash, and in the rush to finish this game, they had to remove the feature rather than fix it. So, I hope you enjoy hearing the same jokes over and over again and not get sick of them, because that's what happened to me. Anywho, the stealth section, it's fine. You just crouch when in the boat or behind these plants, and the guy with the binoculars won't see you. And then once you get past this stealth section, you have an annoying bit, I'm afraid, where in order to get this red gem over here, you have to skip this football across the sea by spinning into it, but the magnetic properties of your rolling mechanic, and the fact that you can't really aim properly, just made this feel really tedious. And sometimes Crash's drop shadow will just disappear. I had it at some sections, but when I really needed it, it was just gone. So if I failed this bit, I had to do the football spin thing again. And while I was able to get the red gem, it just made me more frustrated than I should have been. Luckily, once we get past this bit and climb up to the village, this was actually relatively straightforward. Just defeat the enemies, belly flop on the worm to follow it around, and you'll rescue Cortex in no time. Until we have another new gimmick, one of the 2 chase sections. Then again, this is a staple of Crash, and I thought this first one was pretty easy, so I didn't mind it. Plus, it's short, so whatever. Going through another tunnel for some extra lives, we meet Farmer Ernest, who asks us to clear some words from his field, only for Cortex to get to the point.
I'm an evil scientist, what do you expect? This isn't a game.
Okay, I do think the game is actually quite funny, but I'll go over that more in the story video. Luckily Crash is a nice guy, so we'll still clear his farm of worms, and after checking on him, he's twitching like Coco was in the opening cutscene, but she recovers, so I'm sure he'll be fine too. Climbing up, we get to the second boss, and unfortunately this one's easy too. The Totem God's attacks can just be avoided by just running, really, and when he summons mini totems, just throw Cortex into its mouth, and doing this 3 times will net you the win. Once we do win, we learn that the evil twins get their powers from the 10th dimension, and Cortex invites us to his lab on the iceberg to try and get there and stop the twins. Climbing down, we grab the yellow gem and hop on a boat. And that's Act 1 done. So far, the game's pacing feels just as rushed as its development, because again, I just didn't know when the next save point was, and the checkpoint crates felt further than they probably were. I'm sure if you skip the gems, just go for the goal, it'll probably be over shorter, but me being me, I wanted to get as much as I possibly could. Act 2, Iceberg Lab. Due to Cortex's incompetence, his remote won't open the front door. So rather than follow him immediately, I decided to grab some gems. These ones are much more forgiving, and it's just some good platforming challenges, some of which really made me use the camera and think where I was going to land. So yeah, I thought getting these gems was pretty fun. But I should let you know right away, it was around this point that I realised Aku Aku had lied to me. Sadly, in the rush to get this game done, Traveller's Tales forgot to activate his special powers. He doesn't speed you up when you call him thrice, and he doesn't even protect you from Nitro and TNT crates. He only protects you from enemies. It got to the point where I just ended up wondering, why are you even here? Ah well, remember when I said that the platforming was pretty good in this game? Well, we now get to do one of my favourite parts of the game, Ice Climb. The platforming is pretty decent. It has these sinking platforms, enemies that are fast or fly, there are spinning cogs and lifts, and you have to use Cortex to activate switches while flinging him over hot pipes and large gaps. The only thing I didn't like about the platforming is that if you fall from a great height in this game, Crash won't take damage, which is good, but he does have this stupid getting up animation, something he doesn't usually have in other games. At first I didn't mind this, it actually caught me off guard, but as the game went on, it became more and more annoying, and I was just like, come on Crash, I just want to get this section over with, I don't need you padding this out more than it needs to be. Although I do like how he has 2 different double jump animations, though the spinning sound is rather redundant for the split. But in all seriousness, like I said, I did enjoy Ice Climb because it was just some good platforming. And when we get to the very top, we meet a familiar face that's frozen in a completely different piece of ice from the opening. Ugh. Despite Uka Uka's reverence in the series, he is another easy boss. He makes a body out of ice, and you need to throw Cortex to the switches, so he'll open up the vents, and then you can belly flop on the button to ignite them while Uka Uka is over them. 3 times and you win. At least after we beat him, we go through another tunnel for extra lives, and then we get to a save crate at Cortex's lab. Honestly, at this point, I found fighting the army ants inside Cortex's lab harder than the bosses. And yeah, I know that the transition tunnels are there to help gather more lives, but it didn't really feel remarkable. It just made me think, was going sort of open world a really good idea? Or was it just making more fluff? Because so far, it just hasn't felt justified. Once we reach the Psychotron, Cortex reveals that we need more crystals to allow for dimensional travel. So, we get to see just why the box art for this game is what it is. At the top of the mountain, Cortex says that we can get some more crystal from Engine's ship, but it's about to set sail. And Crash is able to get us down there quickly by... well, let's just say he might not be straight. Okay, that was a pretty awful joke, but considering how many times I died on this section just trying to get the gems, I got pretty sick of this cutscene quickly. Yeah, sorry to upset you Crash fans, but I didn't like this part that much. You steer left and right and hold the slide button to speed up, but trying to get the gems just proved more troublesome than it was worth. And considering missing that purple gem all the way back in Cavern Catastrophe just motivated me to just skip any that I couldn't be bothered with, I just decided to try and enjoy this for what it is. I mean, this Humilus skate section is fine, but it's just kind of there, to be honest. Maybe again it's because I died so many times getting the gems that the humour just wore off. It's short, so there's that at least, so if you don't really like this part, it's over before you know it. Again, unless you go for the gems like I tried to. Soon enough, you do land near Engine's ship, which hasn't set sail. Then what was the point of doing that? Oh, forget it. We now reach Sea Hi-Jinks. After getting down the hill and realising just how useless Aku Aku is, thanks to the slippery ice and not protecting you from the nitro crates, Engine will try to get you out by firing some missiles at you. And luckily, it's another good platforming section. There's rotating machinery that you have to be careful not to fall off of, the missiles that you have to dodge, the rats and barrels which keep you on your toes, and one of the harder bits of the section for me was trying to get the gem up here. It was kind of embarrassing how many times I had to do this, but because Crash felt good to control, I didn't really mind it that much. Though I do question the physics of these missiles having springs in them. I'm starting to see why Cortex and Engine lose a lot. And unfortunately for Engine, he reinforces that because boss number 3 is Engine himself. He fires missiles at you, and you just need to run around in circles and then trick him into throwing his TNT crate at the platform supports. Again, it's short, but it's not really the best. Then we get to the second chase sequence, where we meet another random new character called Rusty Walrus. But I swear, Rusty has some rubber band AI. No matter how well I did, it just felt like he was right on me. Even when I died and had to try over, it always felt like he was designed to get as close as possible, to the point where I missed the purple gem and had to die just so I could get it. And the hitbox on the nitro crates really felt tighter than they probably were. But then, as soon as we escape Rusty, we have another boss fight. See what I mean with the game's pacing? You just don't get to take a break. Honestly, I was actually kind of glad that Embryo and Entropy were easy as a result. Just run around to avoid Embryo from crushing you, and then when Entropy comes up, he'll split the ice and you have to avoid sinking until he strikes 3 times. On the 3rd strike, his shield will go down, and then you can attack him. Again, it's not bad, it's just... I just didn't really feel challenged by these. And the fact that we just went from Engine to Rusty to these two just reinforced the pacing issues I have. Finally, once we beat them, we can take our time going back to the lab. When we get back to the Psychotron, Coco arrives to save us, and she ends up paralysing herself. So now to undo this, we need to go recruit a new character called Nina Cortex, who has a surprisingly dark backstory when you think about it, but again, I'll save that for the story video. Alright, Act 3, and this is one of the game's highlights, well, for me at least. We get on the airship, and when the twins ambush us, we get to play as Cortex! I mean, yeah, we're halfway through the game, so better late than never, I suppose. Wait, what? That's it? Oh. Alright then. Anyway, the Academy of Evil. All the gems were out in the open, so I was able to get nearly all of them. Because this one up here, the platform won't move, it'll only move once you're finished with the area. So make sure you remember this and get it when you're finished. Instead, I'll talk about how this area reinforced how annoying the rolling mechanic was. The footballs just felt very finicky to control, and depending how fast you go, they'll either just fly out of your grip, or they just won't let go of you. And again, sliding to make them go upward isn't reliable either, because there's no certainty it's going to go where you want it to. This area, while decent, has a notorious glitch as well. See this cutscene of Cortex? This activates whenever you're near him, and it starts the next section we're going to, but after you finish this part of the game, he will still be here when it's time for you to go back to the lab, so you could instinctually follow Cortex, because that's what you've been doing up until this point, and by mistake do this entire part of the game all over again. Yeah, that really wasn't fair again. Okay, I know this game only had 1 year left to be finished, but if they just didn't do so many of these gimmicks, they probably could have ironed all these creases out. Ah well, anyway, on to the next section. Going down the fountain staircase, we arrive at Boiler Room Doom. After you fling Cortex into this little chute, he'll get stuck in a pipe. And this is where one of the more memorable platforming sections comes into play. Once you roll Cortex onto the starting platform, you then have to make sure his path is clear. You do some platforming to reach these blue wheels, and you spin them to get the pipes into place. Again, it's simple, but I enjoyed it. Though I was an idiot here because I didn't remember that I had to slam the beetles. But apart from that, yeah, I like this part. Once you safely get Cortex through, he'll finally get out of the pipe, and we reach, in my opinion, the best boss fight in the game. Remember those villains at the start? Well, not only is Dingodile one of the few that actually talks, not only does he pop up every now and again, but he's easily the most challenging boss fight in this game. He has 4 phases, adding a new attack each time. Starting off, he'll burst out some fireballs like a bunch of grenades, and then after doing this twice, he'll charge up a fireball, and when he crouches, that's when he fires. If you trick him into hitting these targets around the boiler, you can slam the button, and it will activate the emergency sprinkler system, leaving him open for a spin or slide. For phase 2, he'll crouch down and spin on the spot with a concentrated wave of fire. Then he'll do the same thing again while standing up, and you can just crouch and slide to avoid it. After he fires another fireball for you to exploit, we'll get on to phase 3. In my opinion, the most irritating one. He'll spin around again, but he'll change direction depending on where you are, so I found the best strategy was to switch between getting close to him and getting far away from him, so he didn't think that I was getting too far ahead or falling behind. After he does this twice, he'll charge up another fireball for you to exploit. And the final phase will have him spin while going up and down, so time your jumps and slides. After another wave of fire, he'll burst out some more little grenade fireballs, and then the final charge shot. A good boss overall. He got me to think, and I died more times than I cared to admit. So yeah, well done, Dingodile. Once we escape the boiler room, we enter Classroom Chaos. Again, go through this door. Do not go looking for Cortex, or you'll do that bit again. Classroom Chaos has a bit of everything. The cramped hallways force the camera to focus. You have the second of the 2 stealth sections, this time with some hall monitors. You have some slime and hot gas you have to evade. And there's even another upward chase in the school library. Slime will be rising and you have to get to the top. And during the chase you have to knock down bookcases and do some pretty uneasy jumps due to the camera angle, and because again the drop shadow just tends to disappear when you need it. But once we get past this and grab another gem, we finally get to play as Dr. Cortex, near the last third of the game.
I'll take it from here.
Cortex's jump is weaker than Crash's, but he does have a laser pistol. Mashing the spin button will fire rapid bursts, each using 1 point of ammunition, and holding the button will ready a charge shot that takes up 5 points of ammunition. The good news is that these lock onto targets automatically for you. The bad news is that you need to collect these ammo crates just by touching them to get 30 rounds. More good news though, your basic shots can break metal crates. And as a neat little touch, Cortex will summon Uka Uka. And he's just as useless as Aku Aku. I was able to put this jump blast to good use in the classroom sections, but this also uses 5 ammo points. Just jump and fire, and you should hit most things around you. I also like how when Cortex runs out of ammunition, he'll just start panicking. You also have to save your ammo because you need to hit these machines so you can cross slime and ring these bells to get rid of the janitors by making the students excited. I didn't really show it off much, but you can also shuffle from side to side, but this really wasn't useful, so like the long jump, I just ignored it. Despite that, I like playing as Cortex. It was slow, but it wasn't stressful, so I can forgive it. That being said, it is short and feels like a one and done kind of thing. All that build up, and you only play as him for about 5 minutes. Soon enough, you finish up with Cortex, and we meet the next new playable character, his niece, Nina. Again, with this late in the game, and only now is the new playable character being introduced. And she also lasts about 5 or 6 minutes. Luckily for Nina though, I thought her level, Rooftop Rampage, put her to good use. Like Crash, she has a spin attack, and she can safely destroy TNT and nitro crates like Cortex, but instead of a pistol, she uses her grapple arms. Just press the slide button to punch. She can't double jump, but what she can do is grapple onto these hook points by tapping the slide button. But I recommend you hold the button instead. This is going to help in the final boss fight. Oh, and don't touch the left thumbstick when you jump off. Nina will jump in the right direction for you. Again, the final boss relies on you knowing this. So just trust me, hold the slide button instead of tapping it, and just tap the jump button, do not touch the left thumbstick. I promise you, that's going to save you some stress. I also like how she doesn't run, she skips. Like this is an everyday thing for her. I can't really help it. Nina's honestly, like I said, one of the highlights of the game for me. I like the gothic aesthetic, I like how you have to annoy the statues to make them grapple points. She feels really strong knocking these bells around with one punch, and she even has her own chase section. Hence why I said there were sort of 3 chase sections, because I didn't know if I should include it, since it's Nina's, not Crash's. Though like with Rusty Walrus, I died quite a few times here because the airship feels like it just catches up to you way too quickly, and the swinging bus doesn't help things at all. On the plus side, all the gems are easy to get here too. So yeah, Nina is also pretty good in this game. But once we finish up with Nina, Cortex will tell her to meet Crash at the airship while he faces the boss of this area. His old school teacher, now headmistress, Madam Amberly. And I'm sorry to say, she's also easy. For one, in boss fights, Cortex has unlimited ammo. 2, the part of the pipe organ she's going to open up is telegraphed, so you have enough time to get out of the way and blast it down before she traps you. And 3, the rapid fire makes shooting all the bells she sends at you a cakewalk. Blast her backpack 3 times, and you win. Such an interesting concept, Cortex meeting his old teacher, but again it just ends up going nowhere. At least now that we've reunited with Crash, we can get the last gem. Remember, the platform will now come up and down, so just grab this gem and then head over to the airship. With Act 3 done, we move into Act 4. And after we learn of the twins' backstory with Cortex, we arrive back at the Iceberg Lab, and Nina fixes the Psychotron. So now we can get to the 10th dimension. And look, Cortex even makes a brand new friend. One who doesn't like hugs very much. So he pays him back by taking Nina. After we go through this tunnel, we get to the second Humorless Skate section. Don't let evil Crash and Nina fool you. This is not a race. You don't have to catch him, you don't have to beat him to the bottom, you just have to survive. But oddly enough, I actually found this one easier, probably because I got more gems than I did on the first one, and the only bit that weirded me out was how evil Crash and Nina just vanish at the bottom, because the game was rushed. I was honestly just taken aback how I enjoyed the second one more than the first one. Anywho, we're now at Twinsanity Island. Another sign of just how rushed this game is, because it's very empty. There are these weird metallic switch balls that you have to roll into holes so they can turn off force fields surrounding the gems. But at this point in the game, like I said, I missed so much due to the point of no return thing that I didn't really bother going after a lot of these. Instead, I just went straight to evil Crash and Nina and decided to get some Wumpa Fruit for some extra lives. Remember all the way at the start where you had to escort Cortex? Well, we're finally doing the second one with Bandicoot Pursuit. Just like last time, you have to make a clear path for Cortex before he runs over the edge. Oh, if you're wondering where evil Crash is, he glitched out. Every single time. Yeah, he shows up again whenever you round a corner, but he still gets glitched out. I've got really nothing to say about this one, so once you do it, you just go over to the next part of the beach, and I got a few more gems, before noticing that there is a way to get back to the start of this section. Like I said at the start of this video, it's very long-winded sometimes because you have to go all the way around if you miss something just to try and get it again, especially if you die at one checkpoint instead of finding another checkpoint crate. But I had missed so many gems because of, again, the point of no return design that I honestly gave up at this point. I was just fed up with it. Like this one with the football, I tried spinning and sliding but it just never aimed properly, so I ultimately just gave up on 100% completion. All you get is concept art and a bonus video, something you can watch online whenever you want in better quality, and I might try and complete this game someday, but at this point, with all the underwhelming gimmicks, the finicky rolling mechanics, the point of no return, some absurd gem placements because of that point of no return design, and the fact you can't skip the cutscenes, I just couldn't be asked. So I thought, let's just end this. Okay, so how does the game end? Well, with the final part, Ant Agony. Following Cortex and Nina into the evil twins' volcano lair, we have some more of those metallic balls, some more army ants, and some coloured platforms. The purple ones disappear when you step on them, and the red, green, blue and yellow ones appear in that order, so you have to focus as you jump around. You also have to do a little bit of combat to disable other shields, and keep in mind the army ants with swords take 2 hits, not 1, and there's even some metallic balls that you have to get over gaps with some ramps. But these ones I didn't mind too much. It felt like they were designed with the rolling mechanics in mind, rather than just putting them in an open world with some random crates scattered. You may have noticed that we really haven't also joined up with Cortex like we did in Iceberg Lab. It's just pure platforming here, the part that I enjoy the most. It makes me think if, at this point, Traveller's Tales realised far too late that not focusing on just the platforming was a mistake. If they had stripped back a lot of these other gimmicks like the Humorless Skate, the escort, the rolling mechanics, all that lot, and just focused on the platforming and improved Cortex and Nina's gameplay, I think the game would have been better overall for it. And Agony really does feel good after all that, but it just feels like too little too late. Oh well, time for the final showdown, I guess. We finally encounter Victor and Moritz, the evil twins, and instead of using their reality warping powers, they just summon a giant mech. This final boss is infamous because of Nina's section. Remember, if you die at any point, you have to start over and rewatch the cutscenes again. And this can eat away at your lives and patience. But you'll remember earlier that I mentioned holding the slide button and not touching the left thumbstick while jumping. Well, if you hold the button, you're guaranteed to latch onto the hooks, and not touching the left thumbstick always makes Nina jump where she needs to. Once you realise this, Nina's section goes from frustrating to oddly boring, since you can ignore the army ants, and the evil twins mech is too far away to hit you anyway. Then we get a really easy section in Phase 2 with Cortex. Once again, he has unlimited ammunition, and you just have to run around in circles while firing at the mech's weapons. I recommend you go for the machine pistol first, because its spread is harder to dodge, while the pulse cannon has enough charge up time that you can get far away enough to jump over the blast. Do this, and Phase 2 will be over in about 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And then the final phase, with Crash piloting Mecha Bandicoot. Yeah, we're on the final phase of the final boss and we're still introducing new mechanics. Again, if they just focused on the platforming and got rid of all these gimmicks, they probably would have been able to smooth this game out more. Especially since, like with Cortex, you just walk in circles, fire missiles between the shield's gaps, do this 4 times and you've won. Simple as that. If Mecha Bandicoot has other weapons, I wouldn't know because I just didn't need them. Sadly, I think the final boss sums the game up perfectly. It had neat ideas, but passion and creativity means nothing if you don't have the time, budget, or, more harshly, given the inexperienced newbies, competence to bring it all together. But I will give Twinsanity this. Ignoring the empty spaces near the end of the game at Twinsanity Beach, the game's presentation is impressive for the time. Yeah, not Jak and Daxter quality, but the character models, super expressive. Crash and Cortex's alone are worth a screenshot in every cutscene. The masks have better fluidity, the body language is much more lively, and I love the little touches like Crash turning his head when you move the camera around, so it gives the impression he's looking around with you. Cortex freaking out when you run out of ammo, Crash having those 2 different double jump animations. And I like how when you hit Dingodile in his boss fight, he lets out this sort of demonic cry like, well, a dingo and crocodile mix. It's actually kind of haunting. Voice acting overall is top notch, and we can't ignore the music. It's performed by an a cappella group called Spiralmouth. For those of you who don't know what that means, a cappella is when you use just your voice, and the sounds and vocals you make are more like instruments rather than singing. To show you what I mean, here are some of my favourites. Although, word of warning when you watch these cutscenes, loads of sound effects are missing. It doesn't ruin the game, but it's just worth noting. And that's Crash Twinsanity. Finally got to play it. What do I think? Well, I definitely see why fans have become passionate about this game. It has a lot of potential, but like I said, potential relies on the team being able to pull it off. I really wanted to join the majority of Crash fans who see the diamond in the rough here. Like I said, I enjoyed the platforming, I thought Cortex and Nina were highlights, and I did like exploring some of the open areas to find gems. But I have to be honest with myself. All the gimmicks, which get 2, maybe 3 sections each, are just not well refined enough or are too simple for their own good. Going after all the gems can help, but given how they only unlock concept art of a much better game we didn't get, a video you can watch online anyway, and the fact that again, the point of no return means if you miss one, well that's it, it just made me want to just ignore them in the end. As soon as I missed that purple gem all the way at the start and hit a save crate, I immediately knew this game was going to be more frustrating than fun despite its charm. I mean, yeah, the story, which I will go over at the end of the retrospective in that big video, is very entertaining. The animations, music and humour reinforce that. But being forced to listen to tracks that are really short over and over again, being forced to watch the same jokes in the cutscenes over and over when you die until they're just not funny anymore, and the lack of screen time for characters like Coco, Dingodile, and even Nina, who doesn't even talk except for one gasp in the last cutscene, really just makes this game feel more like a chore, which is never a good sign, especially for a platformer. The credits saying Traveller's Tales Oxford Studio are still made me lament, especially when you understand just how much stress that the team went through. If you are curious, in the video description I've given you a link to JMac and Webbsta, who are 2 former developers of the Oxford studio, and they go over every bit of cut content and what they regretted most. It's honestly a fun watch, and I'll also link the developer interviews on the Beyond Twinsanity website for your reading pleasure. And before I go, I want to highlight an upcoming fan remake. You might be aware of how the infamous Sonic 06 has been completely fixed with Project 06, turning one of the most infamous rushed games of all time into one of the best 3D platformers in recent memory. Well, Crash fans have decided, if they can do it, so can we. This fan remake is called Crash Twinsanity Evolution, and it aims to do the same, restore all the cut content, put sound effects back in, refine the physics and get rid of the glitches. I might do a follow-up video actually when this game comes out, but it was announced recently so it's probably not going to be done for quite a while. Hopefully when it does show up it'll prove to everyone, and myself, that this game was worth the time and effort in the end. So overall, while I did like the platforming and getting to play as Cortex and Nina, I just think the extra gimmicks just hold the game back. I can only call this game okay really. Not really a favourite of mine, but I didn't mind it. Like I said, maybe the fan remake can change my mind. But we'll have to wait and see. Sadly though, when this game was first released, it underperformed even more than Wrath of Cortex. It sold less than Wrath of Cortex on PS2, there was no GameCube version, so that one's out of the race, and the Xbox sales are tragic. As a result, the Oxford studio for Traveller's Tales would close down, and the remaining members would return to the Knutsford studio to work on the very first LEGO Star Wars game. So at least they got to move on to something more lucrative, if very overdone. So what happened to Crash afterwards? Well, before we find out, I want to go back a bit because what I didn't mention in my Wrath of Cortex video is that another game was being made during its development, that being Crash XS, or Crash Huge Adventure depending on the region. So we're going to take a look at that game next, and see if the handheld experience ended up being better in its own right. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Leave a comment saying if you agree or disagree with me. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. And until the next video, I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Take care.